Let's talk about black magic. Spooky, spooky. Hello, my name is John Moore, and I am a shamanic practitioner and teacher. I live in the state of Maine in the US, and I study magic, the occult, esoteric, spirituality, mysticism, because I'm a nerd. You can see a few of my books over here. I have thousands of books. It's a small section of my collection. But I study a lot of things, and I want to talk about black magic, and the title of this video is that there is no such thing as black magic. Magic has no color, essentially. But that term has been in common use for probably a couple hundred years, few hundred years, and I really want to point some things out about it. I really want to point some things out about this term because there's a lot of misunderstanding. A lot of that comes from popular culture, and popular culture going all the way back to the witches in Shakespeare, all the way through, you know, that old black magic, songs about black magic, evil magicians, evil witches, yada, 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 yada. First, let me say that the term black magic is racist in origin. 100%. We know this. It comes out of colonialism, where things that were white or lighter were seen as positive. Things that were black, as in out of Africa, as in dark-skinned people, as in the religions that came out of Africa at that time, were seen as evil or in league with the devil. So when we use the term black magic to refer to negative magic, we are perpetuating racist terminology. And I realize that I am using the word black magic here, but I have to use it to describe it. But what I'm saying is it's not a thing in the way that we understand it. I'm trying to pull that apart and give people some understanding. This is not to say there isn't magic, aren't magics out there that are designed to have a negative impact on people. But those don't necessarily just come from Africa. We have Greek and Roman and Viking and all kinds of curses coming from different sources that were not necessarily dark-skinned people at those times. So let's forget about skin color for a moment, and let's refer to acts of negative magic as baneful magic. It's a more accurate term, baneful. So I'm doing some magic, some curse, some thing that is designed to harm somebody else. And the placement of judgment upon those things is not really always that clear-cut. Sure, if I am sitting around in my home just being malevolent and casting spells to make people's hair fall out, or what, you know, whatever I'm doing, just to be vindictive, you know, that we might argue is not a great thing, not a very ethical thing for me to do. And at some point, I believe that will come back to haunt me. I think karma is a thing, and that occurs. I'm also going to touch upon the threefold rule a little bit, which is another quite modern invention that not very many people actually ever believed in, but is a nice idea to try to help keep people from performing baneful magic that they shouldn't perform. Now, I would argue that anything that is designed to take away somebody's free will could also be considered baneful magic or a curse. So that includes a lot of love spells. I'm going to make so-and-so fall in love with me. That's different than casting a spell to say, I am going to find the love of my life, which is a manifestation thing, opening yourself up to the universe to find the love of your life, not I am going to change that specific person's free will. I'm going to remove their free will, and they would not fall in love with me otherwise, and I'm going to do some magical act to do that. I believe that's baneful. This is my judgment, and I believe that is a form of cursing. Whether you believe that being in love with you is a curse or not, you are taking away somebody's free will, and there is an ethical issue with that. Now, let's talk about cursing. Let's talk about the judgment of cursing. So we have the threefold rule that comes out of Wicca that says whatever magic you put out there comes back to you 3 times over. So if I am cursing somebody, then I get 3 times that curse energy back. Consequently, if I bless somebody, if I do an abundance spell for that person, then I should get 3 times the abundance since I'm putting out in that universe. That's a thing that some people believe in, and I would say that in the case where people actually believe that, people actually follow that, it's the belief that's creating the effect. This is not to say there isn't karma, that our actions don't have consequences. They absolutely do. But I don't think cursing people makes you cursed 3 times over. If that were true, there are cultures that curse all the time. Those people would stop doing that. They wouldn't do that. The other aspect is we can look at cursing or magic that is specifically intended to harm somebody else or take away their free will or that sort of thing. It's very easy to look and say, well, that's just evil. That's bad. That's a type of magic that I'm not going to perform. And that would be very simple, but most things are not, and I'm going to use this term black and white, and I don't mean that in the racist connotation. I just mean as opposites like black and white writing, clear as day, right? Most things are not that clear. So I'll give you an example. There's somebody I know, somebody I follow who writes and teaches a lot of courses and has a lot of books about magic, and he has some stuff about protection magic out there. And he did some work for somebody who was being stalked by a violent stalker, a predator. And he did a work to curse this person, and this person was climbing a ladder to break into this person's house while they were sleeping and fell off the ladder, broke his leg, and then was caught by the law. Okay, so we could argue about the ethics of that. We could argue about the ethics of using baneful magic for things like self-defense, which, by the way, it's used quite a lot that way. And you look at oppressed cultures like African Americans in the US who come up with these magical systems like hoodoo, which are, you know, a bunch of folk stuff from Africa, from Native American beliefs, from Celtic beliefs, all this stuff. And they're doing a lot of this stuff to protect themselves because it's what they had. It's what they had to work with. It's how they protected themselves because, you know, if you don't know the history, it was, you know, these came out of times where there were lynchings and Jim Crow laws just post-slavery. And these were people that were constantly under threat and being victimized and oppressed. And so a lot of the work that they did was to curse certain individuals to protect themselves. We could argue about the ethics of that. Right? We could argue about the ethics of self-defense. For example, if I walk out of my home and somebody comes up and pulls a knife on me and tries to attack me, is it okay if I attack them back and they wind up getting hurt? Most people would say yes. There are some people who wouldn't. Again, that's a matter of opinion, but you see how things get not very clear at that point, right? Where I am not a violent person. I would never want to use violence against another human being. But if I were protecting myself or my family, I might be forced to do that. Or to accept that this person is going to victimize me. This person's going to be violent with me or my family. So, you know, so cursing can be done defensively in that way. And again, the ethical argument is, should I be cursing people because I'm jealous of them? So-and-so stole my boyfriend, so I make them break their leg. In those cases, I think karma's already affecting you at that point. Like you already, you know, karma sometimes works in advance. We tend to kind of lose stuff sometimes around karmic actions. I'll do another whole video on my take on karma at some point. So when I say that there's no such thing as black magic, what I'm talking about is it's a label that was invented to apply to certain types of magical acts, whether they be ritual or prayer or charms or talismans or, you know, whatever, dealing with devils and demons and yada, yada, yada. But that it does come out, the label does come from racist origins. I would not use it. It would be more accurate to describe harmful magic or baneful magic as just that, because it comes from different sources. You know, it's not just coming from one group of people. There are curses everywhere. You know, the evil eye, for example, is sort of a type of cursing, and that exists in so many different cultures. It probably came out of like Mesopotamia or something, really ancient stuff, and protections against the evil eye. There are protections against the evil eye in Scandinavian folk magic that incorporates Christianity. There's a recitation that uses the figure of Jesus to, and the evil eye is called, I mean, it's called the evil eye, but it's also called the evil envy. And there is a whole, they use these historiolas, which are these stories that they tell that are magical stories to turn the evil eye. And it's about, you know, Jesus meets the evil envy on a bridge and asks, "Where are you going?" Evil envy says, "I'm going over to that person's house to cause them harm." And Jesus says, "I'm going to send you back to where you come from." And there's this whole story that's told as a protection or a turning back, a reversal of the evil eye. So then we get into the whole, you know, reversal thing. If somebody is sending negative magic to you and then you reverse it, are you then cursing them? Is there a threefold effect to that? I don't know. So let me tell you this about the threefold, you know, the threefold rule. Whatever magic you put out comes back to you 3 times. If that were true, there would not be a lot of baneful magic out there, because people would just be dying left and right. And the other thing is, people who are doing non-baneful magic, I would think, would be winning the lottery all the time and doing that sort of thing. So it's not quite that simple, and it's a rule that, quite frankly, was invented in extremely recent history to prevent people from doing baneful magic when they hadn't thought things through. You know, it's sort of like, you know, keeping your gun in a gun safe, so when somebody doesn't make you angry, you just have it and shoot somebody, right? It's a method of controlling people's behavior. But I think having an understanding of things is a better form of control, instead of these dogmatic rules of thumb that, you know, the very first time somebody experiments with something outside of that rule system, it falls apart. It doesn't work. It doesn't happen. It's, you know, it does not turn back on you three times over. That being said, you can't just go around attacking people magically and expecting no consequences to happen, because they will. You know, some of the stuff that you send is reflected back, and some of it, when we're raising up energy through jealousy or anger or hatred or whatever, we're amplifying that in our own system. And this is where the karma happens almost instantly. It's not something's going to happen to you somewhere in the future, down the road, I don't know. Karma is frequently instant. It's frequently instantaneous. It's hard for us to see sometimes, because as human beings we tend to be removed from things that we're observing. So as an example, you know, I think of somebody who commits a crime, like a serious crime, like they steal something or whatever. We're like, oh, that person's never gotten punished, that person's blah 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 blah. But instantly there's this there's already a worry on behalf of this person that they have to carry around, that they're going to get caught for a really long time. And there are effects, like that person has to live their life, has to change their life and live in a certain way. And there, potentially will be repercussions, other repercussions down the road. But we're not seeing the grander picture, so it can be difficult to see how karma works. So we like to project and say, oh, well, that person, when they die, they're going to go to hell. Or when they, go to the next life, they're going to be reincarnated as a slug, or, something along those lines. Karma is cause and effect. I do something now that has lots of effects. If I walk across the street and I punch my neighbor in the nose, I don't know why I would. I don't have any problem with my neighbor. But as an example, if I walk across the street and punch my neighbor in the nose and I turn around and I come back, then I have to worry about, is the neighbor calling the police? Am I going to get arrested? What's gonna happen? The neighbor might attack me back. Now I have this horrible relationship with my neighbor across the street. It's not going to improve after I punch him in the nose. And so I have created my karma instantly. There's all kinds of stuff. There are all kinds of ways that my life has changed and will change over a long period of time because of this action that I took today. So we don't have to wait around to see the effect of karma. And so this magical rule of three, the same thing, this threefold rule, is not a thing. It's not a rule. It's not a rule of law or a rule of nature or rule of physics or magical physics or anything like that. It's just a thing that somebody made up to try to rein in people ethically and morally. And the reason why I'm not afraid that it isn't a real thing is that there are again these instantaneous repercussions, and people have tried to harm me using spiritual methodology. It's very easy to detect. It's very easy to deflect, and on top of that, these are people that are already suffering, already pretty messed up. They're already sitting in their karma, sitting in the filth of their karma. So I would like, if you watch this, to if you are tempted to use the term black magic, just to know its origins, know that it's not really a thing. There's no color. There's just magic, and the use of which becomes the thing, becomes the ethical question. If I own a hammer, I can use it to build somebody a home, or I can use it to go club somebody over the head. The hammer is not an evil tool, okay? It is a tool that I can use for good, or I can use for evil, nefarious purposes. So in the realm of magic and spirituality, and I would include things like prayer as an act of magic, things like shamanic journeying, types of meditation, magical acts that are intended to harm, to control another person, to take away somebody's free will, which is a form of harm that's not just a physical form of harm. Let's just call those baneful. We'll call them baneful or negative acts of magic, and we'll skip the black magic thing. Still like the song, that old black magic, but again, we'll know in our head that it may not, most people who speak it these days probably aren't even aware that it has racist connotations, but it does, historically speaking. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you real soon.